Happy to talk to my next guest on the Sports Card Shop at Moco guest line. This next gentleman is a content creator himself, obviously a hobbyist as well. Man, this guy is energetic and passionate. I don't know if I can match that today. I'm going to have my work cut out for me. He hails from sunny Hawaii while we're here in snowy Syracuse. But without further ado, let's welcome Dylan Davis, Double D Vintage to Sports Card Nation. Welcome, Dylan.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. This is a surreal experience for me since
Well,
I'm. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, listen, you know, this is two guys, talking about the hobby, things we both are passionate, care about, and love talking about. So, but I appreciate that. But you go ahead as well.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been a whirlwind for me because I've been collecting baseball cards my whole life since I was 6 years old, and 1985, 86, maybe even before that, some movie cards and stuff like that from the vending machines. But the last year, I dove into YouTube and creating my own content and really putting my opinions out in the world. At first, I just wanted to talk about certain things, design of cards and things like that. And then I'm really letting myself out there, and to be on a show like yours that I truly just respect and I listen to religiously. It's an honor for me to be on here since I haven't been in this world with other people my whole life. And now that I'm doing it, I'm meeting guys that it blows my mind. It's a weird experience for me to actually have somebody want to talk to me about baseball cards, and it's been exciting. And I really am honored to be on your show. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for accepting and coming on. And Dylan, one thing that drew me to you, I know we've chatted and talked about, you listening to the show and being a fan and all that. But that, frankly, that's not why you're on the show. You're on the show because, and watching your content, like you just mentioned on YouTube, it's what I said, right? You're energetic, you're passionate, you care. Uh, you're having fun, and those are some of the best and genuine, right? Those are some of the things we need more of, quite frankly, in the hobby. You can never have enough. Even when you have a lot, the more of that you have, the better off you are. People ask me, quite frequently, John, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own show, YouTube. I'm thinking about starting my own podcast. Any tips, any advice? And I said, listen, I don't want to, I don't, I'm not a guru or anything, but the one thing I always kind of say, it's easy, is have fun, right? Because if you're not having fun with what you're doing, what are we doing here, right? So have
Yeah.
fun, be yourself. That's my, those two things kind of go together. Because if you be yourself, that comes through, right? People know when you're being phony and disingenuous and all that terrible stuff. People can see right through it. They can smell it, and that's not good. But when you're yourself, um, people respect that, and even if they don't agree with you all the time, they'll respect that because you're being honest, you're being yourself, and have fun. Those are the two biggest devices I give when I'm asked, and you're doing that. And I didn't give you that advice, but you're doing that, and you're doing a great job of it, and I enjoy watching that kind of content, and learning from it myself as well. So, what I guess we'll start there, Dylan. What was it that what was the I'm sure you thought about doing it. What was the five what pushed you over that and said, "Hey, we're doing this."
Well, awesome question. And I just I've had this obsession with baseball cards. It takes me to a place that anytime I look at one, anytime I sell baseball cards on eBay. I've been doing it for 20 years, since 2001, I think my account says. When it was like dial up, I was on there trying to figure it out in like 99, like, and I
Yeah.
just I have an addiction to these things, and every time I look at one, it takes me to that place when I was a kid, going to my local Baseball Cards Plus, and with my friends rollerblading there, riding bikes, I just really didn't know that there was a place that I could share this with until I started listening to podcasts. And podcasts I listened to for about 10 years before I even knew there was baseball card podcasts. Like, I don't know what I was doing. Like, why didn't I just type in, hey, baseball cards? I didn't know. I was just like history and all kinds of different podcasts, right? And I did Audible books forever. I was always audibling all the vintage baseball card players I could possibly find. Every Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and Babe Ruth book that is on Audible, I probably already read it, like hundreds and hundreds of stuff. And then I found Mike Moynihan's podcast, which I talked about, and I was lucky enough to be on his show. And that was another surreal experience for me because it's just like this whirlwind thing. It's all happening so fast. Well, after watching his content and listening, or I should say, listening to his content for about a year, he kept talking about YouTube, and he's like, "Yeah, all these are on YouTube." So I was like, "YouTube, man, I really don't want to have another thing in my phone. I don't want to do that. I have a Instagram, right? And I have this pond. I do ponds, and I build ponds, and I raise koi and turtles. So I have this Instagram in there. It's enough work as it is." And so I'm like, do I really want another thing? But I got on YouTube, started watching. I go, man, this is sick. I'm watching these guys and they're showing baseball cards. And I'm like, I've never seen that. And I don't have card shows because I'm from Hawaii, or I live in Hawaii now, not originally from Hawaii, but the last 6 years I've been here. I have no baseball cards over here except for 3 guys. We have a little community of us. They're all old guys that were opening packs of, 1950 cards and 60s cards. I'm very good friends with these guys. I talk to them on a weekly basis. There's nothing bigger than that. And so me watching these YouTube channels, I'm just like, dude, these guys are on here just sharing cards. Check this card out. So I was just baffled, and my mind was just blown away. And I go, man, that's what I want to do. So really what pushed me over the edge is Mike did these episodes on your favorite sets, the favorite sets from 1950s, 60s, 70s, and I think he went to the 80s. And I was like listening on the podcast and then watching and like raising my hand going, dude, I want to put my opinion out there. That's not the best one. This is the best one. I'm all about designing cards. I just stare at cards because I have a wall here. My wife is a graphic designer and an artist. And so she's in that world, and she always looks, I'm always making her look at my wall and like, hey, check this card out. What do you think about this one? And she'll give opinions. So this YouTube thing, I just like what got over the edge. I'll be honest with you. I was scared to death because my Instagram with my pawn thing, I never put my face on Instagram. My Facebook is private. It's only for my friends and family that I went to high school with and stuff, just those type things. I didn't think I'd be able to speak like doing this to me. If you would have said I was going to be doing this a year ago, I would have just been like, you're out of your mind. I would have never been able to do it. I would have been nervous and scared. So one night I had Lauren, is my wife. She had a friend over, and I was serving cocktails to them. We were having conversations, and then we came into the card room, and I had some drinks, and then we started talking. I was showing her Jackie Robinson cards, which is right up your alley. And I was telling her she didn't know the history of Jackie Robinson. Blew my mind. I was like all over the place with all these guys, and I focused on Jackie Robinson because that movie, 42. And I go, you got to watch that movie. We talked for like an hour. She was super thrilled about it. And so when she went next door, I said, I'm going to do a video. So I drank. I was drinking. I was like buzzed up, and I go, I'm doing a video. Put myself on camera, and I did a video, and that was how I entered this world. And my world has been like, it's been absolutely incredible. Anyone who's like on the fence of doing, putting themselves out there, man, I just be yourself. I just love it. It's just
so you just basically jumped. You just jumped in. You just said,
totally.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best way to do it, Dylan. It's funny hearing you say like a year ago, if you would have told me I would be doing this or doing that, I think you were crazy. I've said that on my show. like if you when I was a kid, I was the shyest kid ever. Like I'd hide behind my grandparents and kind of quiet. Even in school, like even when I had to use the restroom, I'd be scared to ask the teacher to be excused so I could go. I'd hold it in all day. Thankfully, I lived across the street from the school in New York City. So as soon as I got picked up, I basically made a beeline home to use the restroom. So if you would have told like the younger version of me, some of the stuff I would be doing as an older person, I would have thought you're crazy too. And I'm not even just talking content that alone, but coaching varsity sports, which I did for 4 years, baseball and football, having parent meetings, being a teacher, and working with younger kids, all that stuff. Even I've been blessed to talk on the national main stage. If you would have told me the younger version of myself, that's some of the things you're gonna do when you get older, I would say I don't even want to do that stuff. I'm not doing. I'm shy. I'm shy. I'm nervous. I don't want. That's not my thing. And yet, I've done that stuff. And so sometimes, for me, it wasn't so much just a spontaneous thing. Yeah, I can't speak English all of a sudden. It wasn't that like in your case. For me, I think when you get older, mine was sort of shyness and being reserved. But I think when you get older and you're shy and you're reserved and you because you're worried about what everyone's going to think of you if I like do something wrong or and
Yeah.
I think you get as you get older, you not that you don't care, but you're like, you know what? I'm who I am. I'm gonna be me, and if someone likes me, awesome. And if they don't, it is what it is. And I think you lose that sort of inhibition where that self consciousness, if you will. And that's what it was for me to start doing, stuff more out in front than being shy and reserved. But what the way you did it too is the way sometimes you just gotta take that plunge, take that leap, and just say, "Hey, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna be me, like you do." And now there's no turning back now, right? So
Yeah, let me add to that, John, because a lot of things in my life, I I'm like when I was in high school, a lot of people see me on YouTube and they're like, "Man, he's the most outgoing guy. He's so fired up." You know what? I'm fired up because I love baseball cards. But I was the guy like you, and I didn't want to stand in front of people and talk to my peers. Like that's insane. Like so scary. But my wife, she's an artist. She's an introvert. She's very shy, but she's so talented. But a few years ago, about 4 years ago, she went on her own and she worked did freelance art for all these different companies for like 10 years. But then she stepped out and did it on her own, and we do art booths. I run my own art shop tomorrow at a farmer's market, just like you do at your card shows. I sell her art, and then I set her up as well. So she was my inspiration, and she was always telling me, you need to do a YouTube. You need to do this. And watching her blossom and letting her passion shine was a really a big push for me, and just a jump all in. And just like when I told my wife that I loved her and I was in love with her before we were married, this is probably 15 years ago. It was a moment that I said it, right? It was a moment in time that I jumped in on that decision and I said, I love you. I'm in love with you. We were out and we were having drinks, and it just, not that everything has to do with drinking, right? But it was like these moments in my life. It just it lets my inhibitions come out on those moments, and it let what I really wanted to say come out. And I tell my wife all the time, anytime if I'm having a drink or anything that comes out of my mouth while I'm drinking is honesty.
yeah,
I don't drink that. I don't drink a lot. So it's like, if I'm going to drink, what comes out of my mouth, you can take it as gold, because that's just,
yeah,
it's so I owe my wife so much credit in this whole endeavor and letting myself become me, and this pat and just like having friends in this. Yeah, it's been incredible.
Yeah, and again, that shines through, and that stuff's refreshing when someone is just energetic, passionate, cares about, and loves talking about it with fellow hobbyists, and you check all those boxes. I want to talk about Hawaii. I know you said you're not originally from there, but you're there now. Like, I've never been to Hawaii, so maybe it's easy for me to say, like, man, if I was in Hawaii, like, I'm a seafood guy, like fishing. I don't know if I'd collect cards anymore. I think I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but like,
Of course.
I mean, Hawaii just seems like such a fun state, so much stuff to do, to collect cards. Stuff would draw you away from that. You ever find that, or not? Not really.
Cards are like cards are great for me because I surf. I'm a surfer. I've surfed my whole life. My wife is a surfer. She's an old professional longboard. She's not old, but she's an ex-professional longboarder. And I tried to become a professional surfer in my time, but I never quite made it. But
Hmm.
today I surf for 2 hours. Yesterday I surf for 5 hours. So I do all these things, and then I can come into the card room and my eBay thing, and I can it's a good happy place for me, like a good like okay, relax and just
Yeah.
sit down at your desk. and and a lot of people, not Hawaii's not for everybody. Like, if you love to do outdoors things, you love fishing, John, you come over here, I'll take you out on my Zodiac and we'll go fish the rivers, we'll go fish in the ocean. It's mind blowing, and you can do that for ages. But since I'm a surfer, I pretty much just surf all the time. The beach, I live
Yeah.
right by the beach, so I can walk to the beach and go fishing right on the beach and catch fish. Um, I don't get sidetracked from, it's not like I'm not going to lose my passion for cards. I never have. And and for me being over here, I gave up I had a job full time for 20 years on the mainland. And I gave that up because my wife's born and raised here. So she's from here, her whole family's here. So we came up with a crazy plan. I knew when I married her, we're going to be coming over here. Um, and I wasn't against it. I was all for it because I'm a surfer. But when you come over here, I had to figure out what I'm going to do. And I was already selling cards on eBay. So for me, cards was like, if I can't make it selling cards, it's been my dream my whole life is to make a living selling cards. Then I'm just, I mean, and quite frankly, I told my dad, I'm like, dude, I'm just dumb. If I can't make a living selling cards now, let me just say, I also have another business that I do yards for a living. I have a yard business,
Yeah.
but the card thing is always been my dream. It's always been my passion, and this YouTube thing has kept me focused. And I am all in on. I literally I've been dropping clients left and right because my wife's business is really booming, and I'm really gonna be focusing on the sports card world for the distant as far as I can see. And I want to go to shows. I'm selling so much stuff on eBay. Uh, I can't even I get so excited talking about baseball cards, and it's just yeah, I can't handle it. So I
Well,
don't get
that's
sidetracked, John.
well, that's a listen. Passion is a good thing. Sometimes people could use more of that, right?
Yeah.
Sticking on to Hawaii, you mentioned there's really not a lot of card shows or card shops where you are. Is If someone lived where you are, I mean, I'll have to obviously give that out. It's Hawaii. Like, obviously you mentioned eBay, you're selling there. I'm sure you buy some stuff there. Is there anywhere where you live, like, where there's no card shows at all, or no LCSs at all at this point?
Okay. Well, I have one LCS. It's an hour from my house, and we call it town. That's what we call it. And
Yeah.
it's a toy store as well. But the main guy, his name is Sheldon, great guy. He does a card show every month. Now the card show consists of 4 tables. Okay, so
Yeah.
every month I go. It's on a Saturday, and there's two vintage guys there. During the boom was pretty crazy. There's more like 8 tables. A lot of guys selling basketball modern stuff, like, but I was just gravitated to these two guys, their tables. So the last 5, 6 years, I go over there and I hang out with him. The guy who owns the card shop's been in my room. We've hung out in here. I've had a couple of my fellow guys that live over here, so I can buy cards, but it's not like a card shop on the mainland. There's a lot of other stuff in there. His first, there was like probably 10 blaster boxes total for sale, and you would open the blasters and sell the packs individually. Okay, that's how small it was. It is his business boomed over the last couple of years, so it's been good to see. And now he has like, he's got enough boxes where I can go in there and, you know, buy plenty of cards if I want. But he's a basketball and a Pokemon collector. So as far as the world I'm in, because I'm a vintage guy,
Yeah.
there's it's just these two old guys that I've bought pretty much all the cards that they have that I want to purchase, and that's it. So I'm kind of stuck. It's like I gotta fly.
Yeah.
I can fly to California, where I used to, you know, born and raised, and card shops there, and I have done that. But yeah, as far as that, it's tough for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But you know, the obviously social media selling platforms, eBay being the largest one, of course, but other ones as well, have sort of made the world a smaller place where you can live, you know, in Hawaii and still acquire and sell cards. A question I want to ask you as a seller myself, right? It's the old dilemma. You ever have a you know a dilemma? That's probably the best word. Where your card, you're like, man, I want to keep this, but I also kind of I know I can sell it. You know that fine line
Oh yeah.
between being a collector and a dealer, or something in the personal collection or in the inventory. You ever get in those situations?
All the time, John. I mean, I'm going through it right now. I'm selling so much stuff. I'm switching because of YouTube mess with my brain, and in a good way. I'm switching
Yeah.
all my I collected everything. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of this place called The Pit, but The Pit was around, I
Yep.
don't know, in the
Yep.
2000s. So I was like I was like a, they call it arbitrage, right? You buy something here
Yeah.
and sell it for more somewhere else. I in 2000, right after high school, I graduated in 99, so 2000 to 2004, I was buying sight unseen because a PSA 7 was a 7. They took one picture on The Pit, and you just click,
Yep.
okay, I want to buy. So I was buying them, and no one really knew that existed, and I was selling them on eBay as auctions, and I was crushing it. But I got in a big pickle because I was keeping too many. So your question that
Yep.
I was keeping so many of these. So I got behind on a credit card, and no one taught me that I could have just waited to sell some more and paid a, you know, whatever fee it was, and paid the credit card off the next month. I was told you had to pay a credit card off every month, which I do now, and I did then,
Yep.
but I got into a pickle. And so since then, you know, I've learned my lesson. But with that said, yeah, I come across it all the time, but I'm not scared anymore to sell the card because the things that I collect are all just standard tops issue. They're not rare. I can find
Yeah.
another one. And if I let go of it, trust me, I'm spending that money on sports cards. I'm buying more.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't care, even if it's the only cards I won't sell are cards that, you know, I physically have a connection with, where I bought them in the flesh from somebody, or, you know, we all
Yeah.
have those stories. But most of my cards, especially because where I live, and even then, I was too scared to talk to dealers. I go to card shows all the time. I went to Frankensons in California twice a
Yeah.
week for years, for like 10 years. Those old guys were so grumpy. They didn't talk to me about nothing. So I was on my own, right? So eBay was always the best, and The Pit. I would just buy them, and so I don't have like this physical connection that like this piece of cardboard. No, if it's in a slab, except for a few, you know, except for maybe 50 of my slabs, they're just
Yep.
that card in a slab, and I have no problem selling it. I'll just upgrade it, and I'll just buy one that
Yeah.
I appreciate. That's how I've been
Yeah,
rolling lately.
it's funny because when I, you know, during my store days, 92 to 97, it's one of those things. Like if I could go back, like it was, you
Huh.
know, I just kept like I didn't put everything out, and it just if I could have a mulligan, you know, we did well. We did well for, you know, I had a partner in the store. We did well for that 6 years. The first year, we our overhead, a lot of our startup costs were pricey. And so the first year there almost wasn't a second year, but we stuck it out and start doing a lot better. But one of my store faux pas was a lot of times I would just not put something out and keep it. And the older I got, I was in my 20s in the 90s. The older I got, the less attached, if you will, to the cards. It doesn't mean I don't care about them or love them, but I
Yeah.
just sort of learned by trial and error that, like you said, you can upgrade, you can replace it. Unless it's one of those just super rare cards, and something along those lines, you can
Like your
always get it
like
back
your
if
Jackie
you miss.
rookie.
Yeah, I mean that's not for sale. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna have those cards, and you have those type of cards as well too, and those are no brainers, right? But some of the other stuff that's a little bit easier to replace, we'll say it that way. You just learn to like not get too attached and let them go so someone else can enjoy them. And if you ever want to get it back again, you can whenever that dawns on you to do so. So I was curious as a fellow seller, if you ever run across those situations. It was nice hearing you say, yeah, sometimes that happens. So let's talk. You talk about your displays. Anyone who's seen your YouTube program, and obviously, I'm anyone watching this video a week or two after the podcast is now seeing them. They're behind you too. Talk about the displays. Who made these? Are they customized? I mean, they're your displays. Talk about uh, who built them and all about all that good stuff about them.
Gladly. My favorite conversations of all, displays. I've my whole life I've been about displaying your baseball cards. As a
Yeah,
kid growing up, going to these sports card shops. There's one on Beach Boulevard in particular, is next to a doll museum. I know there's people out there that will know what this is. There was a little amusement park. I used to go there with my family when I was young, and my sister. I'd go in the dollar museum as well. It's huge, but they had a card shop there, and they had a huge wall of vintage baseball cards, and I was just like, I was just magical to me. So my whole life I've had displays in my closets. I've anywhere I could display cards, I display them in my sheds. Like, once I got older, I had like sheds in the backyard. I literally would bring out my slabs and I'd put them in my shed and I'd have them up, not thinking about sun glare or like sun damage, just like wanted to see them, right? And so my wife has always been good letting me have these displays. I had a couple of glass displays in our pantry, in California, like 8 years ago. And it's just a place for me, a little dark area, and go in there and check out my cards. Well, when we moved over here to Hawaii, we got a much bigger place and we have a whole room that's just a museum. And my wife also collected, I wouldn't say she's a collector per se. She doesn't collect anything now, but she saved all her toys from her childhood, as did I. So we always wanted to display that stuff. And of course, I was going to have my baseball cards displayed as well. So I started on one wall. I built everything from scratch. I cut every single piece of wood. When I came over here, I was doing carpentry work, or I was doing construction. I was working for my wife's dad. He's a contractor, and I vowed never to do that in a million years. I took a year off when we moved over here just to take a year off. I worked for 20 years, so I basically retired. And
yeah,
like I said, I was going to sell baseball cards for a living, but it's to list 100,000 baseball cards, it takes forever. So that is like, okay, keep doing that. But so the wall was like a good practice for me. I cut everything by hand, and it started with toys and a small baseball card area because I didn't want them in the light, right? And then
yeah.
it grew and expanded, and it is what you see today, which is the entire wall and then another wall. There's about 200 cards displayed, and I ordered museum grade glass and I cut it myself. And I have that up, and I also tinted all of our windows with the darkest possible UV protection tint. And then I have curtains that is my wife's design over top. And then on the outside wall, I have. I mean, this is how crazy I am. I have the shade material. You'll see it at Home Depot. I have that hanging so the light doesn't hit the wall of the house and get the cards hot, because some of the cards are against the wall of the outside wall, right? So I didn't want the wall to heat up and heat the cards up from the outside. All the windows are painted. I have a big window up top. I just painted it and I put a plywood on the outside. So you come in here, it's like Vegas. You don't know what time it is. You just get to work. And my wife has a museum display this way, is all her artwork that she's done for companies. So I think as a collector, to have displays in your house is like, if you don't have it, I can't recommend it enough. It's the greatest thing you could ever do, because you walk into your own card shop every day you come home. I sit in my bed and I have the light switch to my card wall that you're seeing right here if you're watching.
Yeah.
And I click it on and I'll sit in my bed and I'll just like look at it, from way over there. And we just get inspired when we come in this room. I have my childhood toys, my wife's childhood toys, which you'll see right here. We have them all in order of years. And I built everything from scratch and did everything that took years, took about 2 years to complete everything. Like the whole room is full circle. If I ever did a video, the entire room has displays all the way around it. And the baseball card display room, my dream one day is to literally have an entire room circled with baseball cards. It will happen, just hasn't happened yet. I also have a surfboard room that I built that has just surfboards and my surfboard trophies and displays. And so, man, if you're out there and you don't have your cards displayed, you got to have, like yours behind you. You got your jacket up there. You got your your balls. When you walk in that room, you're in there. You're in your world, you're in the card space, right? It just puts you in that. Happy
well,
place.
you make a great point, Dylan. Yeah, you love the hobby, right? You love whatever you collect. We're here talking about cards. You mentioned toys with your wife's and your childhood toys, but whatever it is, right? You want to see it, right? Just having them in the dark or in the closet. Now I get, you can't put everything out necessarily.
Yeah.
You gotta pick and choose sometimes. That's also fun in itself as well. What makes
Absolutely.
the cut and what doesn't. But to have everything kind of put away, that's not really that much fun. And you want to see them, especially some of the more significant ones, or some that really hit on your heartstrings, or hit a chord, or has some sort of symbolic relationship. For me, obviously, it's that Jackie rookie is the number one card, but it's not just that card, right? I have other cards, as you pointed out. I feel a little bit insignificant because you're talking about shades and specially museum glass cut by you. Someone asked me a couple of weeks back, Dylan, like with the cards behind me, they're graded cards. In a Show Your Slabs case. I have some that way that aren't on camera. And someone asked me the card, because the window's right here, and the light obviously comes in there during the daytime. And someone asked me, John, what do you do to protect the cards that are behind where you're sitting, those graded cards? Because they're all Hall of Fame graded rookies. They're probably some of the better part of my collection. And after hearing you, I really, my answer was the chair I'm sitting in when I'm not in it. I literally put it up against it so it's blocking the sunlight. I feel like that's definitely not enough after hearing all the. But you know what? I'm joking. But all joking aside, those are all great points, right? You want to protect. I know people hate the I word, right? The investment word, but
John, let me tell you, you've got to block those windows. Like, I could prove to you, I did an experiment. I bought you the UV glasses, museum grade UV glass. I put cards behind it. I put them in the windows, one without UV protection, one with, for 2 years. And I wanted to see what happened to these cards. I still have them. They all faded. And the ones without it faded way worse than the ones. But I have toys that we had before I had all my cards. I had my cards really low before in a small section. Some of our toys faded out, and I didn't have all
Yeah.
the window stuff up, but when I see people's windows open, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to cover that. I have an AC unit running in here always at 70 degrees. I'm like crazy out of my mind, but I live in Hawaii too, so
Yeah.
humidity is huge. So you gotta have AC. And then in my safes, I have these things that collect moisture, and then you can plug them in and recharge them. I'm really big
Yeah.
on all that stuff. I did tons of research because it's you're these cards aren't cheap, and it's all fun and
Yeah.
games, but this is our life. There's a lot of money invested in these things, and they're investments.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care how you look at it.
No,
I
yeah, no,
totally have them married.
yeah. No, you're great points, right? You want to protect anything, right? You just like you protect your house, right? You do stuff to
Yeah.
protect your house. Why not protect the stuff in your house? Now I do have blinds and shades that do come down, so I know I made it sound like the sun just listen, I'm in
That's how I
Syracuse.
was
We don't
thinking it
get
was
that much.
blasting in.
We
Hitting
don't get
right on your
that.
Jackie like it
That's
was
what I
sent from God.
well, that's what I tell people when they ask me, what do I do? I say, I put the chair right up against it so that blocks it. I got the shades, and we don't get much sun in Syracuse anyway. So between the combination of all those things, so far, so good. But yeah, you got to think about stuff, even temperature control. And everyone thinks because a card's graded and it's in that plastic encapsulation that they can still fade right through those. Those are not, I know
Absolutely.
they are. Some of them have better UV protection than other ones, but they're not 100% foolproof. And so, the more
Yeah.
safeguards you can put in place to protect the cards that mean so much to you. And listen, some of them cost more than others. Again, that Jackie is one of my most expensive purchases. So you want to, you want to protect it. I don't even have, it's usually if I'm filming or something, I have it out. There's many times, like you said, you mentioned safe. That's a great. I'll put it in there as well. So especially if I'm not gonna be home or I'm traveling, it's definitely not just sitting out on my desk. And
I
uh,
literally, I envision every time I watch one of your videos, I see the Jackie and I go, yeah, I wonder if I'm just like blasting on that thing. And then your car,
yeah,
your balls, the autographs. I think about that stuff when I watch your videos. Hey, John, can I ask you a question? I really like the
sure you
topic
can.
of what you said. I think if I heard you right, 92 you started your shop. Your store? What years did you start your store?
Yep,
What year?
1992 to 97,
So you were in like,
and I had a
to
part.
me that was like the toughest time almost ever to
Yeah,
open a shop, right? Because it was coming to the 93 was like the end of the bubble.
it was, but in in the area we were in, it was still kind of very busy. What did it? My exit. We talked about eBay earlier, Dylan. eBay was my way to get out of the store, and here's what I mean by that. And I did an episode. It's way back when one of my early episodes wasn't even I wasn't even really doing guests like I do now. It was just kind of me and Sports Card Nation. I did an episode called eBay, the Blessing and the Curse, and I talked about this. So I'll give you sort of my
Okay.
Cliff Notes response rather than rehash it. So, you
Yeah.
know, eBay was new then. It was not the eBay we know here in 2022. It was really just sort of taking a foothold. So people were coming to the store and saying, John or Angelo, that was my partner, hey, I can get this on this eBay auction site for $20. You got it for 25. Can you match that, or can you get close to that? And then we had a decision to make. Will we take less and make the sale? And that was starting to happen more and more as eBay became more mainstream and more popular. And one of the things, I was 20 when I started the store in 92, born in 72, and I was a big rock guy and going to rock shows. But a lot of my friends, hey, we're going out of state. We're going to see this band, right? You want to go? And a lot of, 80% of the time I had to say, no, I can't do it. I gotta be at the store. So it was,
Yeah.
I don't want to make this sound terrible, but not a prison, but I was sort of tied to the store where I was losing opportunities to do 20-year-old things 20-year-olds do. And so
Yeah.
now eBay was coming along and we were sort of competing against this invisible card store that was everywhere, not 2 miles up the road, and that sort of thing. And so, I thought about it. Now we're in '96 and '97. eBay is definitely really becoming a tour de force in its own right. And I just said, man, I'm still 25. I can still do a lot of these fun things, but I can put all my inventory on eBay and sell. Go to sleep and make a sale overnight while I'm sleeping. Right? Can't do that in a card store, right? No one's there. It's closed. The doors are locked. Um, and I just sort of weighed sort of these pros and cons. And then I finally just decided like it wasn't so much the store doing bad. We were still doing well, but I'm like, I can just do shows in the Northeast, which I love to travel and set up at shows. That was the other
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes with the store, you can't do shows as much too, because now you're taking stuff out of showcases, and now it's not in there for customers in the store. It just became like I had show inventory, store inventory, and then the light bulb went on, and I just said I can list stuff on eBay. I can travel and do these shows in the Northeast, here in New York, Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, travel. When my buddies say, hey, we're doing this, you want to go? I can go most of the time. And so I decided I was going to, get out of the store based on all those factors. And, I had dinner one night with my partner after working in the store with him and just told him what I was kind of thinking. And over the course of the next week, he was very supportive. He wasn't mad. And all right, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. And we worked out, because we had our own inventories and then we had sort of our shared inventory. So the only thing we had to do was come up with a price on that shared inventory, which we did. He bought me out, and I started doing the Northeast with shows, eBay. I start listing on eBay, and it's funny. This was still in the time, there was no PayPal or
Oh,
Venmo.
it's so
You
bad.
get
Money
if you remember,
orders.
you get the check in the mail, and then you would ship out. So selling a card was actually a 2 to 3 week process, but
Mhm.
it worked even for that time. It's what we had at the time, right? And so I was doing that, and I missed a little bit of the store, but on some days, but it was also nice to sort of have that freedom at 25, 26 again. And, that's for me. I'm glad I did the store. I get asked even now, Dylan, would I ever do a store again? And you never say never, right? The old
Yeah.
cliche line. But
Yes.
the situation would just have to be so right and make sense. And I always joke. My son even asked me, and I talked about this. I'd love if I ever did a store again. I'd love to do it in Cooperstown, New York, where the Baseball Hall of Fame is. It's only 70 minutes from me. You know, I have one of my dreams is like buying a storefront that has like a residence above it, and opening a card store, kind of living there when I need to, and kind of commute. It's only 60, 70 minute, but rather than maybe commute back and forth every day, stay there a couple days, come home, whatever the schedule dictates, and that sort of thing. So that's always the thought. I'm not doing anything to pursue it. It's just sort of
A dream. Yeah, that
yeah,
sounds awesome.
yeah, a dream that I'm not necessarily trying to make happen, but if it was to happen, it would be fun, for sure. But I don't regret my store days at all. I mean, it just just the path you take, and maybe someday I'll do it again. But right now, I just, time wise, it's just I don't know where I'd make that time. And but I'm an LCS guy, right? I'm supportive of them. They're an important part of the hobby. I got my start,
Yes.
uh, not so much from but I got my start with a couple packs on a you know a corner store, not a card store, but I really went nosedived in the hobby was going to a card store, and the owner put me to work. I was there so much, I just start working there, doing shows with him, kind of cut my teeth and learned about the hobby and the business side of it, and then did my first show at 15 years old, and the rest is history. But so LCSs mean a lot to me, even though I'm not an LCS owner anymore. I think they're an important part. We talk about eBay, right? It's great to buy anything. You can't sleep. It's 3 in the morning. You pick up your phone. You can buy a card you've been pursuing, right? That's a great
Yeah.
thing. But there's nothing that beats, to me, in person, getting to hold that card in your hand and looking at it and examining it and making the purchase, and that social interaction in person with the owner, right? Or and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Absolutely.
Even if you're the seller, right? That interaction you have with a potential buyer, and that stuff can never be replaced. eBay is the number one, auction site, and it probably always will be. But there's something to be said about that in-person transaction, and I think card shows and card stores will always give you that. Where in eBay, you buy something on eBay, right? Unless it's a graded card, you got to hope you're getting what you're seeing,
Yeah.
and you
Yes.
you hear stories where that doesn't always happen. The other thing, it may not even be a switcherooski type of deal, but you're relying on a mail carrier or a shipping company to get that there safely, and that doesn't
Yeah.
always happen either. So an in-person transaction, there's a price on that you can't put, and that's why I love card stores, card shows, because you get that from them. But that's just my take on it. And again, eBay's like that episode I titled it, right, the blessing and the curse. There's pluses and minuses to it. It allowed me some freedoms, and I kind of moved on from the store and traveled more and did more stuff that a 25, 26-year-old was doing at those times. And then I progressed in the hobby from there. So but also, you're competing with this invisible empire, and you know millions of other card stores now too, as as a seller, right? Your
Yeah.
prices got to be competitive, and that's a good thing, right? Competition makes things more affordable, and even when you're buying stuff as well. So it's a two sided coin. So
Well, thanks for sharing that, John. I appreciate that.
yeah,
So,
well, you asked me a question. I always say the guest. This is all. It's all about kind of one last question as we kind of come down
yeah, please.
the wire here. Obviously, grading. I'm a guy that loves buying and selling grading cards, submitting grading cards. I mean, what do you think right now? Obviously we saw things change in the grading part of the hobby. They were getting backlogs, so they start raising prices or completely shutting down levels. Now we're seeing things kind of come back to sort of close to where they were pre-pandemic, pre-crescendo. Just your general thoughts at where we are in the grading space, price-wise. Turnaround times are getting quicker again. I mean, SGC, who's a sponsor of this show, is at 5 to 7 days. That's insane. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and even PSA is getting better. They're not that quick, but they're better than they at one point than they were. So, just some of your general thoughts of as someone I know who does slabs, buys slabs, sells them, keeps them. Just your what you think of where we are grading wise.
Well, great. I love these topics of grading. I love the topic talking about grading companies, and the whole grading thing is just awesome to me because for me it's always been like the great equalizer because old guys wouldn't talk to me when I was a kid and didn't tell me about things. So grading gives you an opportunity at home to buy a card that you know has somebody else, a professional's eyes on it, and gives it an authentic grade and a grade you can bank on it and you don't have to gamble on buying a raw card anymore. Not that buying ungraded cards is wrong, but as someone
Yeah.
who's new to, if you're new to the hobby, or when I was younger, like no one talked to me, like that's just, it was so nice for me. So I've always, I mean, it's easy to say now, but when the grading cards went through the roof and everyone, during the pandemic, it was $50 a card. And I don't know, everyone wasn't saying they weren't going to come back down. Of course they were going to come back down to $10 and $12 again and 15. Now with the inflation thing, I think they're going to go back down to $10. I think you did an interview with Ezra. I don't know, the PSA
Yeah.
guy. I forgot his name, but
Oh, Nat
they're going to
Turner.
come back
Nat
down.
Turner.
Why? Nat Turner. Why would they be? Why would they be higher than they were back then? It's not like things have changed that much. So to me, let's get these things back down to $10 so we can get collectors back in, and the modern collectors aren't going to be spending more than $10 to get a card graded that's a base card. But
Yeah.
collectors, we will spend $10 to get a base card, even if it comes back in an 8, just to have it slabbed and like museum
Yeah.
nice. It displays well. There's something to be said for that. SGC, I just sent in 20 cards. I got a 20 something order in for them. I'm all about the grading procedure. I absolutely love it. I obviously, there's ways that my whole thing right now is taking advantage of their system. It's not perfect,
Yeah.
I appeal is everything in vintage. It's so different than modern cards and
Yeah.
ultra modern cards. You can't tell it. I can't tell the difference between a 9 and a 10, even some 8s to 10s. You need a magnifying glass. That's not I
Yeah.
collect cards, and I'm never gonna collect cards like that. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean I don't own some 10s because I think the value in 10s is always going to be there because that's what all these new collectors have been born and raised in. This 10 2020 card is worth 10 times the 9. That's just, it's not going to go anywhere. But if I'm a collector, I think give me the 9 for $10 rather than the 10 for 100.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
SGC's killing it. PSA's killing it. CSG has really nice slabs. I wish PSA would change their slab quality as far as their glass,
Yeah.
the plastic they use. I don't care for it. And SGC as
They're
well.
doing something different. Nat said, not to cut.
That's what I
Nat
heard.
said they're
Yeah.
they're doing. He didn't really get into too many specifics, so we'll have to wait
Yeah.
and see. And I think you're going to see a few of the company. It's like Burger King and McDonald's, right? When one of them
Yeah.
comes out
It's a
with
no brainer.
something new, the other one's going to come out with something new, and so I think we're going to see. We're seeing AI now being used more as well. I don't ever want. I've said this during that conversation with Nat. I picked his brain. Like I
Mm-hmm.
liked his answer. I don't really ever really want to see AI only grading one of my cards, I like the human element that someone's picking the card up and looking at it. And Nat said, like, we'll use it to some extent, but it's never going to replace a human grading one of our customers' cards. So we don't even think that's really logistically possible to grade a card fairly and indiscriminately just by putting it sort of in a scanner or in a computer system. So I again, technology gets better and better every year, but I still like that human element, and it was nice hearing that kind of talk about like they're going to use AI more for certain things, but they're not going to completely not uh, have a human not look at your car.
Well, John, I take the exact opposite stance. See, I'm totally on
Yeah,
board. Give me AI 100%. I don't want anyone touching
yeah,
my cards. If I don't know. I'm totally different on that. I would
Yeah.
love to be able to send a vintage card in and it's the same grade every single time. And I know I
Yeah,
could
the
be wrong.
consistency.
Yeah, just give me consistency and I don't need a human to look at it. I don't care. I just want
Well,
the same thing.
I'm not even disagreeing with you, but that's my point. I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone can do now. Tag, I don't know if you know much about tag
Oh yeah,
grading.
yeah.
Tag
I've been
grading
definitely looking
is
into that.
supposed to do is using AI only, but here's the problem, though, Dylan. They won't grade anything older than 2004.
I know. I went on there. I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
So the
so
technology
that's
is out
yeah,
there. Someone hasn't figured it out. And I think Nat Turner is wrong.
perfect.
I think the technology obviously has to exist. There's so much crazy technology out there. I just think the money to get to to apply that to every card is probably the dilemma. It's a money thing in my
Yeah.
thought. I'm not Nat Turner. I'm
Yeah.
not. But I just would love. I'm the opposite of you on that scale. I want
Yeah.
AI.
Well,
I want it all the way.
I'm older and stubborner and old school,
Yeah,
so maybe
maybe.
I'm gonna blame it. I'm gonna blame it on that.
Oh,
But,
I like it.
you know,
But it's good. It's good to talk about these things. It's fun.
yeah,
It's like,
and
and
that's the
it
beauty of
doesn't
the
matter.
hobby too, Dylan.
Yep.
We don't have to agree exactly
Yes.
across the board, but we can still love the hobby, be
Yes.
friends, and get along,
Yes.
and enjoy talking about it just the same. So I appreciate.
Absolutely.
Again, I respect your point of view, right? And opinions, no one's wrong, right? Facts you can be wrong
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Opinions, no one is wrong on. So neither one of us are wrong when it comes to an opinion. But Dylan, thank you for coming on. You said you were honored. I'm honored that you came on. Give everyone that's listening out there or watching here where they can find what you're doing, your content, anything you want to share. Take your time, get that stuff out there.
Thanks, John. Yeah. Thanks again for having me on the show. And anybody's listening, if you want to look at my YouTube, it's Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. Um, I do long videos. I sit there and just talk about anything and everything. I show lots of baseball cards. It's just a collector's channel. It's just really fun. Um, and then also, I'm going to be doing a podcast and a video
Yes.
YouTube as well with my friend
Yeah.
Adam from Splendid Sports. We're going to be doing one every other week, and we're going to be having conversations just like this about grading. About I really like design, so we're going to be talking about 1960 best designs, 1950, all opinions and just fun stuff. Nothing negative, no negativity. There's no negativity is
Yeah.
not welcome on my channel. In my mind, I can't handle it. It doesn't make sense. This is a hobby and this is an enjoyable experience, and we are allowed to have opinions, but opinions shouldn't bubble your blood. Like me and
Yeah.
John just talked about, we can have two opinions about AI, but I'm not mad in any way. I can just
Yeah.
agree and he can agree with his side. That's where this show is going to go. So if you guys want to see that, check out my channel and Splendid Sports as well. And then am I allowed to bring up my eBay store name?
Yep. Go ahead. Throw it out there.
Okay. My eBay store, 31414 sports cards. You guys, I sell commons and inserts that I've collected my whole life, open packs for years and years. All that stuff's on there. If you guys buy something, shoot me a message. Maybe I'll send you something extra. It's just a fun way for me to sell that stuff and buy stuff I collect. So thank you,
Yeah.
John. It was a pleasure. It was a blast. It's awesome.
Well, likewise, we'll have you back again, and maybe we'll have you. Once you get your show going, I'm sure it's going to be great. We'll have you and Splendid Sports come on. Maybe we'll do kind of a dual interview and talk about content creation and how the shows go and all that fun stuff. So looking forward to that as well.
That'd be awesome. And the hobby is the people. I
There you
love
go.
I love it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, thanks, Dylan. We'll talk to you soon.
okay, thanks, John. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.